Intensified ethnic and class conflicts. The Qing rulers, being a backward minority entering central China, were sensitive about their barbarian identity and had an inferiority complex. The Qing dynasty never established a deep ruling foundation and continued its hostile policies toward the Han people after entering China. The keep your hair or keep your head policy deeply hurt Han sentiments, fostering hostility among the majority Han population from the start. Bannermen and high-ranking officials enjoyed legal privileges such as exemption from civil lawsuits and various leniencies. For instance, to maintain the 8 banners system and the unique lifestyle of the Bannermen, substantial national revenues were wasted on these elites, causing severe social stratification. The Manchu and Han peoples had deep-seated mutual distrust. The Empress Dowager's saying better to give to foreign friends than to family slaves exemplified discrimination against the Han, preventing unity between the Han and Manchu people, thereby expanding opposition to the Qing government and weakening its social foundation. The king's policy of ethnic segregation granted privileges to the Manchus, while other ethnic groups like the Han, Mongols, and Hui were in lower positions. This unequal policy led to ethnic conflicts and dissatisfaction. Differing policies on land and taxes among ethnic groups caused economic imbalances, fueling conflicts. Continuous peasant uprisings and ethnic resistance consumed vast state resources. The rigid social structure, extreme wealth disparities, and generally low living standards exacerbated social conflicts. Sharp conflicts between landlords and peasants, along with Qing oppression and discrimination against the Han, intensified social instability. Increased external pressure. From the mid-19th century, Western powers increased their aggression, and the Qing faced unprecedented external pressure. Western powers expanded their influence, leading to economic, military, and cultural suppression, multiple wars, and unequal treaties, reducing the king's international standing. Threats from Japan and Russia worsened the crisis. Empress Dowager Cixi's late-life motto, "Expand China's resources to please foreign countries," reflected her prioritizing Manchu imperial interests and her autocratic rule, even at the cost of selling out China. After the Opium Wars, the Qing saw Western military strength and, facing nationwide anti-Manchu sentiment, turned from hating to relying on foreigners, using them to suppress internal resistance. Major decisions were made after consulting foreign ambassadors, fulfilling their demands. This approach spared China from foreign military strikes but increased foreign control over China's politics and economy. Following the Boxer Protocol, the Qing government borrowed heavily to alleviate domestic economic crises, further burdening the populace with repayment of enormous indemnities. Foreign powers, through military and capital threats, controlled China's fate, leaving it at the mercy of foreign dictates. Cultural conservatism. To consolidate its rule, the Qing dynasty implemented cultural policies suppressing and assimilating Han culture, viewing advanced technologies and ideas as heresies. Through reforms of the imperial examination system and literary inquisitions, they sought to weaken the influence of Han intellectuals, but this only heightened resistance and dissatisfaction. The king's tight ideological control led to numerous literary persecutions during the Kangxi, Yongzheng, and Qianlong reigns, where perceived disrespect or improper wording could result in severe punishment. Gong Zizhen's poem, Avoiding the Literary Inquisition, Writing for Food, reflects intellectuals' fear and the absurdity of the so-called peaceful era. Literary persecutions went hand in hand with book bans and destruction. During the compilation of the Saiku Quanchu, books deemed rebellious or objectionable were banned, destroyed, or altered. The compilation included 3,471 works, while 6,819 works were banned or destroyed, resulting in significant cultural loss. Approximately 3,100 books were destroyed, marking a cultural catastrophe. The Qing ignored and destroyed valuable works like Heavenly Creations by Ming scientist Song Yingxing, which influenced European agricultural and industrial advancements but was banned in China for terms like Northern Barbarians. Intellectual repression and external isolation led to a darker cultural period than the Ming Dynasty. Scholars, lacking freedom and research opportunities, turned to classical textual studies, resulting in stagnation. The conservative environment slowed technological development, and by the Opium Wars, China lagged significantly behind the rapidly advancing West. The Qing's policies exacerbated cultural decline. Many Ming documents were destroyed, and the Qing's closed attitude towards Western culture hindered cultural exchange, putting Chinese culture at a disadvantage. The Qing's policies left the populace with little educational opportunity, and cultural standards were generally low. Their rejection of Western culture further isolated China, preventing the integration of advanced foreign achievements. Adhering to an agrarian civilization fundamentally hindered modern scientific and technological progress, lacking economic foundation and motivation. The isolationist policy cut off foreign trade and cultural exchange. The imperial examination system and literary persecutions deprived China of the conditions for scientific and cultural development. Attitude towards Western science and technology. Early Qing period. Due to Emperor Kangxi's interest in natural sciences, Western science and technology were somewhat introduced and applied. This brought a brief revival in scientific research. However, after the suppression of rebellions and the end of the war with Russia, military needs decreased, and restrictions on mining technology led to stagnation. Western technology's influence was mostly limited to calendars and astronomy, tightly controlled by Kangxi for his own prestige and to assert dominance over Han officials and Westerners. This was more about political needs than a genuine interest in knowledge. Cultural conservatism. The Manchu rulers' attachment to traditional archery and horseback skills hindered the practical application and dissemination of Western technology. They feared Han Chinese mastering advanced artillery technology. Kangxi avoided engaging deeply with mining, metallurgy, and machinery, emphasizing traditional skills to maintain Manchu identity and control, thereby limiting comprehensive development in China. Cultural arrogance and xenophobia. Blind arrogance and xenophobia. The ruling Qing elite harbored arrogance and xenophobia, which hindered the absorption of Western science and technology. This was evident in events like Yang Guangshan's 1660 for opposition to Western calendars, promoting the absurd notion of preferring no calendar over one from the West. In 1723, political and cultural factors led Emperor Yongzheng to expel all missionaries except those in the Astronomical Bureau, closing off the narrow cultural and technological exchange channel. The death of the last missionary in the Astronomical Bureau in 1774 marked the complete cessation of Western scientific influence. Ineffective reforms. Late Qing reforms. Although the Qing attempted reforms like the self-strengthening movement and the 100 Days reform, these efforts lacked depth and had limited impact. Conservative forces strongly opposed these reforms, preventing their thorough implementation. Social structure issues. Rigid social hierarchy. The Qing society had a strict hierarchy with severe oppression of lower-class people by the gentry class, resulting in poor social mobility. The unequal distribution of resources and significant wealth disparities led to social instability. Comprehensive impact of Qing dynasty's decline. The decline of the Qing dynasty was the result of multiple intertwined factors, forming a complex social phenomenon. This backwardness not only affected national development at the time, but also had profound implications for China's modernization process. Lessons from the fall of the Qing dynasty. Corruption as a public enemy. Any regime that fails to control corruption will inevitably decline. Modernization and international integration. Strengthening political systems, focusing on public welfare, promoting technological innovation, and enhancing cultural exchange are crucial for continuous progress. Keeping ties with the global community and participating in globalization is essential for national prosperity. People-centered governance. Authorities must adopt a people-centered approach, fostering public engagement and government loyalty. A nation's strength comes from its people's creativity and initiative, which drives continuous development and prosperity. This passage underscores the necessity of learning from history to ensure a stable, dynamic, and hopeful future for the nation.